Good morning, guys. Happy Friday. I hope everyone is well. I hope you've all had an amazing week so far. It is Friday, the 22nd of May, and this is your daily market outlook for today. So, before we get into the charts, again, understand that the content on these videos, Discord, and YouTube channel is for educational and informational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos or Discord should be considered financial, investment, or trading advice. Trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Understand that any past performances discussed does not guarantee future results. You are responsible for your own financial decisions. So hopefully you guys should be able to see my screen and see my charts. Let me just double check. Okay, amazing. Again, as always, let's double check the red folder news and see what is going on. Red folder news, sorry, I meant actual news. We have no red folder news going into today, as you guys can see. Nothing to really report on in regards to the dollar. So yeah, pretty simple. Going into the charts, let's see what is happening. Again, nothing's changed as much as what we've discussed pretty much all week, with the fact that, of course, on a 4 hour time frame, we are still pretty much consolidating at this moment in time. As I mentioned on last night's live call, we haven't had a break above, or we haven't had, a breakdown at this moment in time to then understand where the market is truly going. So a little bit tricky, a little bit annoying, I guess, but it is what it is, and we just got to make the most of, obviously, obviously what we think can potentially happen, and also make sure that we have the right risk management at the same time. So jumping into the 1 hour. I discussed this pretty heavily yesterday on the live call. Just simply looking at the internal structure from these 4 hour suppliers, you can see that market broke down, failed to go and break that low, had a reaction. Internally, we obviously went bullish, failed to again go and break the high and create a new higher high, and then we had this 1 hour change of trend here. We had this 1 hour going from downtrend to uptrend back to downtrend. As you can see, it's obviously the exact same scenario here: downtrend to uptrend to downtrend to uptrend to downtrend. So it has been tricky, but all I'm expecting is for a structure to stick, potentially this supply area being the reason why we go and break them lows. That is the main priority at this moment in time. Obviously, I'll be waiting for confirmations in order to see that, and obviously then make a decision from there. So if we look at the charts at this moment in time, this area has mitigated this 1 hour supply. I'm going to move this 4 hour and focus on the one. We have already mitigated this 1 hour supply. Now, is this going to be early inducement? Is this going to be where, people obviously get in, they've gone break even already because the market's moved, and the market punches up one last time and then gets that move away? That is a possibility, of course. That is definitely a possibility. So, still priorities at this moment in time is from this 1 hour supply with the US dollar. Of course, what I've noticed has happened now is during Asian, obviously we had this bullishness during Asian. This candle has come down and liquidated these equal lows that we have. And you'll be able to see this more in a 15-minute 30. These equal lows here. And then as you can pretty much see, this is where that imbalance started. And that is exactly where markets come into and started to move away from it. If I drop down to the 30 and 15-minute, you'll be able to see that a lot more clearer. You can see that a lot more clearer. This is where the imbalance started. Obviously, we can mark that out as a demand area. And that's exactly where market has came into as a 15-minute. Took out all these equal lows, filled in that imbalance, tapped into that demand, and then obviously getting that bullishness away from here at this moment in time. So I'm not ignoring that. That's just one thing I want you guys to understand is, pardon me, we're not ignoring the fact that it has done that. And obviously that could tell us a lot. Now, this is where it's going to be tricky for obviously the inexperienced people, but if market carries on the way it is, and let's say we create a fresh area, we've got 15 seconds left. I won't be surprised if market came, back into. We've got 8 seconds. Let's just finish see how this candle finishes. Give me 3, 2 and 1. What's most likely going to happen is market dips below into this, fills in that imbalance, and then carries on up. And then when we get into the deeper part of this supply, we can obviously see how market is going to react, if it's going to carry on bullish or if it's going to give us that change of trend from this 1 hour supply area to then look for, shorts, which is what we have pretty much discussed. So hopefully that makes sense at this moment in time with the US dollar. Now that leads me on to Euro USD, and quickly just going to zoom out because as you guys can see, we have officially came into that 4 hour demand area here. We have this 4 hour demand area. That's where the imbalance started, you can see, and that's where market is touched into. And as it's touched into that demand, if we just keep an eye on the candle, you can see that market came in, candle finished extremely high up the body, which means that's more of a liquidity sweep, and that could be indicating for long-term buyers. But of course, focusing on the fact that let's not ignore that this is a trend here that could possibly still play out shorts, of course. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Of course, after we've taken the liquidity here, let me just mark that out. After we've taken that liquidity there, what we can now possibly do is focus on what could happen. Market give us this engulfing candle. We do, and we are in this 4 hour demand area at this moment in time. But if we drop down to the 1 hour, we can see that market has also reacted from this supply area here yesterday. That 1 hour supply area here, and we're still 15-minute is still bearish. So basically what I'm trying to say to you guys is when we get into this 1 hour demand area, what I would be specifically waiting for is a reaction from here, seeing if we can get that change of trend from here, a nice potential engulfing candle, and then trying to look for that 1 hour 15-minute demand area potentially to look for them longs from. Ideally, that's what I'd be keeping my eye on. But of course, until then, we've got to understand that if you're focusing on what the supply is doing from this, the market is doing from this supply, internally, we are extremely bearish. So we go to the 15-minute and focus on what's gone on during Asian. Asian obviously started going down. We came into this 15-minute supply area here during London, which is 15-minute supply, which is an entry that I teach inside of my course for Asian. And then same scenario, markets obviously come back up into this and now melted off. So look, it's going to be interesting because as we mentioned about the dollar's most likely going to pull back, fill in this imbalance, and then we get more of an understanding of what's going to go on. So it'll be the same scenario here. I'm expecting market to come and fill in this imbalance, potentially, to this area of 15-minute supply. And then it would be waiting to see what happens. Does market fail to go and break a new low? We see a reaction from here that allows us to then look for participating in the longs, or is the 15-minute supply area just going to stick and we just carry on downwards? That could obviously be a possibility. So interesting to keep an eye on with Euro USD and obviously the other major pairs, and mainly again the US dollar. Now going into GBP USD, let's have a look at what she's doing. So as you guys can pretty much see, we obviously had focusing on the trend, higher high, higher low, higher high. So we're still in this range. We have this higher low and this higher high. Market yesterday and Wednesday come into this demand area, this 4 hour demand, and also 1 hour demand as well. We had a nice reaction from there. And then what we can see happen is when this engulfing candle happened, we obviously came into this 4 hour demand area. Now, inside of that 4 hour demand area, that's where market is currently at. We've mitigated it as well. You can see that if you drop down to the 1, we obviously have a 1 hour demand area, which is what I'd be keeping my eye on more so. So that is more so my area that I've been looking to see if market could carry on going longs from a 1 hour. But of course, we've got to understand that if we look at the internal structure, you can see that the internal structure is shorts at this moment in time. If I jump down to maybe the 30 minute, 15 minute, 1 second, guys. You can see that the internal is obviously bearish. Market is punched up, took out the Asian highs. And what it's done at this moment in time is obviously starting to melt away. So again, if the dollar is going to carry on, let's say, bullish from here, then we can obviously predict that market would potentially carry on bearish from here. So what that would mean for me is we have the start of the imbalance here. Market always loves to rebalance itself. So for me personally, I would like to see market come into around this 15-minute supply area. If we jump down to the 10-minute, is it a little bit more clearer? About the 30. Let's just focus on this 15-minute and 30-minute. So ideally, I'm not interested in looking for longs until we get into this 1 hour demand. So if we get this, that would be amazing. And then of course, when we get into that 1 hour demand area here, we can obviously focus on seeing what market does. Does it carry on? Does it fail to go and create a new low? Give us that change of trend, and then we can obviously look for the longs from this area. So definitely keep an eye on that 1 hour demand area for sure, but also just understand that, let's see what happens with where market condition is. To be honest with you guys as well, like looking at EU and GU, EU is a lot more clearer at this moment in time, I think, than GU. GU has obviously just consolidated a little bit more. So just be aware of that. Now, NZUSD, let's see what she's doing. If we jump to the 4, you can see that, of course, as we've talked about pretty much all week, market has just been disgusting. It has been consolidating sideways, not giving us nothing really. So, pardon me. So understand that, of course, looking at this scenario, what can we expect to happen? Well, for me, for one, from a 4 hour, I just really don't like this. Just being honest, it's wicking above, creating highs, wicking below, not really getting that candle closure. It's just not nice in the slightest. Now, of course, if we jump down to the 1, we could probably see a little bit more of a trend going on. You can probably see the fact that yesterday and Wednesday, we obviously had this bullishness. Yesterday, we came into this 4 hour demand area here. But of course, also, we didn't mitigate this 1 hour demand area. We didn't touch that 1 hour demand area. And then obviously, we had this bullishness away. So at this moment in time, we're inside of this 1 hour demand. We're inside of this 1 hour demand. So it'd be interesting to see if the dollar starts shorting from this supply, then of course we can expect a new longs from this demand. But until then, we would need to see some sort of confirmation happen. And at this moment in time, you can see that market structure, is shorting on a 15-minute. You can see that the 15-minute supply is shorting. And if you focus on the fact that market has just printed a new lower low, there's no confirmation that the longs are going to take control at this moment in time. So everything's pretty much the same. We have this level of 15-minute supply. Let's just move this here. We have this level of 15-minute supply area here. And that is obviously where the imbalance starts. So if the market was for the dollar going to carry on bullish, then of course we'd probably keep an eye on this as a supply to carry on bearish from. That would probably be the main thing. But now, of course, the other thing that we can keep an eye on is if market, decides to obviously do this, fails to go and break the low, and then we get that, confirmation that it's going to be potential longs and the dollar is the confirmation for potential shorts, then of course we can look to then participate in the longs from this 1 hour demand. But at this moment in time, the internal is bearish with the 15-minute. And same scenario for AUD USD. AUD USD, you can see that is basically in this demand area at this moment in time. From a 4 hour, we would mark this wick out. And as you guys can currently see, obviously we have expansion, come back into this demand, expansion. So it's the same thing as what we just mentioned. If we are to go long, it would be from the demand area for sure. But again, that would have to align with the dollar going short from here. Now, of course, if you look at the internal again, you can notice that the internal is still bearish. The internal's giving us nothing at this moment in time to tell us that we should be looking for longs from this demand. If we jump down to the 15-minute, you can see that market has created lower low, lower high, lower low. So ideally, what we would have to wait for is to see how market reacts from this level of supply. This level of 15-minute supply and 30-minute supply. And the same scenario as we've already mentioned, if the market carries on, it will be from potentially here, of course. But if the market gives a reaction where we fail to go and break the low, and then we get, a change of trend from that internal, and it aligns with the dollar again, then what we can potentially expect is market to basically just potentially carry on longs. But again, we have to have that confirmation. We have to have that confirmation with this internal. USD CAD, let's see what she's doing and see if she's being nice. We have officially fully broke that high. Again, it's just been extremely bullish, to be fair, for USD CAD. From a 4 hour, we haven't and didn't mitigate this 4 hour area here. But of course, we're nowhere near that at this moment in time. Focusing on the 1 hour, you guys can probably see as well that we did come into the lower parts. Market mitigated this area of 1 hour demand. So probably just the same scenario. If the market was to carry on bullish, I would like to see the lower ends here be where market carries on bullish. Personally, like this. That's what I would ideally like to see. Now, of course, if we go bearish on the dollar from here, then what we would potentially wait for is this area to be broke. But it would have to align with the dollar. And then potentially look for shorts. But also just just understand that the stronger confirmation would be this level here be broken. And if that was to be broken, then that would be a lot more stronger confirmation to short than this. But obviously, that's more of a 15-minute internal. If we jump down to the 15, you can see that is more of a 15-minute trend. So yeah, let's see what's going to be. Let's see what happens because market's obviously slowing down because the dollar is slowing down slightly in this demand. This supply. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with USD CAD. USD CHF, USD Swiss franc. I don't like the look of. As you can see at this moment in time, we are a bit different to USD CAD. You can see complete opposite. So focusing on what could potentially happen. Well, we've reacted from this 4 hour supply. We obviously are still bullish. We have this this 4 hour higher low, 4 hour higher high. Now, what's happened is when markets dipped into the supply demand area here, we failed to go and create a new higher high. We failed to go and create that new higher high. And what's happened is markets obviously reacted from this demand, come into this supply because we've obviously this supply area here as well could be taking control. And then we've started to move away. So could this be indicating that we should potentially look to prepare ourselves for shorts? That is a default possibility. Ideally, from a 4 hour, this would be the 4 hour supply area that I would personally like to see market come back into, fill in this imbalance, take out any highs, and then carry that short on. If we drop down to the 1 hour, can we see anything different? No, that would still be my area that I would keep an eye on. We obviously have, this 1 hour supply area as well. Inside of there, But that is definitely the area that I'd be looking for only shorts. I'm not interested in shorting from here. Just being real with you. If we jump down to the 15 minute, of course, you can see that market has, of course, took out the highs, give us this move away. But for me, it's not strong enough personally for me to look for shorts from here. I would like to see market come into these areas, the higher time frame areas, personally. So yeah, that is what I've got for today with the daily market outlook. We will obviously catch up inside of the Discord and also keep in touch on there. But also, we will see you guys, or I will see you guys on Monday for the next daily market outlook. Appreciate you guys as always. Take care. Have an amazing weekend, and God bless.